Well, hello. Okay, so guys, you asked for it and I am making the video on how I make homemade refried beans using my home canned pinto beans. I have been doing this for 2.5 years now and I absolutely love it. We don't buy refried beans in a can anymore. Once you try it homemade, it tastes so good and the kids absolutely love it. Sometimes on a Saturday, I told you my kids like eating chips and salsa as a snack when they come home from school. Well, on a Saturday, sometimes I'll just make some refried beans for them and they'll have salsa with beans and cheese and tortilla chips and they love it. And it's super easy and it's super inexpensive, so I don't mind if that's what they want to snack on or if that's what they want on a Saturday for lunch. So it's just another reason to learn how to pressure can to save you a ton of money, because a bag of pinto beans, I bought that 10-pound bag for $5.50. So you figure 10-pound bag, I mean, that's, you know, that's jars and jars and jars and jars and jars of pinto beans. So in reality, it's super cheap to make. Much cheaper than buying a can of refried beans for a couple bucks at the store, that's for sure. So I can my pinto beans usually in pint jars, and that's just because the amount that I use always varies. Sometimes when I make just enough refried beans for a quick dip, I might use 2 or 3 cans. Sometimes if I'm using a can in homemade chili, I just use one, well, I should say jar instead of can, but I'll just use one. So it really varies. So I don't do them in quarts because sometimes quarts are too much, especially if I'm making chili. So to me, I'd rather just pull 2 or 3 jars of pints off my shelf than a quart. That just works better for me, but it might not work better for you. So it'll depend on how often you use it and how much you make and how big your family is. And really it's a convenience of whether or not you want to use pints or if you want to use quarts when you jar them. But beans are super easy to can, and when I can pinto beans again, because I have that 10-pound bag now to do, I will bring you back and I will make a video of pressure canning pinto beans. It's super easy. All beans are the same, except for chili beans where I add a bit more spice to it. So, alright, so the first thing that you do when you pull your jars from your shelf is you want to, you know, kind of take a look at them. You want to make sure that each one of the jars are sealed. I will get out my can opener. So once you make sure that all your seals are still there, you're going to open a can or a jar, and you're going to make sure you hear that seal. And then I always smell them to make sure that they still smell good and they smell like beans, and then you want to take a look at them and make sure that they still look good. So as long as those 4 things happen, still sealed, open it, listen for that pop. I'm going to take a look at them, make sure they still look good, and give them a smell, and they should smell like a can of beans. Alright. And they look good. So that's it. So now we're going to move on to making homemade refried beans. You guys, this is so easy. And I'm going to do it a real, you know, I've kind of made it several different ways. I've used olive oil, I've used lard, I've used vegetable oil. We're going to do vegetable oil today just because I'm talking to a lot of fellow mamas out there who are new to canning and new to cooking things from scratch. So I want to make it as easy as possible. If you don't can yet and you want to make homemade refried beans, you still can. Just buy a couple of cans of pinto beans and you can make them homemade yourself. You don't have to have home canned pinto beans. You can buy them in a can if you must. So let's get over to the stove and let's make some homemade refried beans. Okay, so I'm going to turn my heat up to about a medium heat. of course, adjust it to your own stovetop. And I'm just going to use some vegetable oil because that's what majority of people have on hand. I have used olive oil. I like the taste of the olive oil, although it is a bit strong. And I also really love it with lard. So those are the 3 ways that I've tried it. And depending on what I have on hand and depending on what I feel like doing, you know, I do it different ways. But the vegetable oil is really, really a good way to do it. So I add, I don't know, I eyeball it, but I would say a couple tablespoons to the bottom of my pan. And I'm using cast iron because I prefer cast iron. But you use what you like, and I just want to make sure that the bottom of my pan is coated here. And I'm just going to go ahead and let that oil heat up. Okay, so once my pan is heated up, I'm going to go ahead and just take my pinto beans, and I don't drain them. I keep the liquid. When I can my beans, my homemade beans, I use boiled water. So, alright, I'm going to get all 3 jars right in here. And then I'm just going to give them a good quick stir here. And I'm going to let them start cooking up. Now, while these get heated, I'm going to add a bit of salt. Now, the salt is going to, you know, the seasoning is going to depend on what you like. I always like to add a little bit and then taste it and then add more if I have to, rather than adding a whole lot. So that was probably a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then I'm going to add, I've got some Sejed garlic powder here, some actually granulated garlic, and I'm probably going to add about a 1/4 teaspoon of granulated garlic to it. And that is the only the only 2 spices I'm going to add to this. Just some garlic and some salt. You can make this with fresh garlic. You would have to saute it first. I do have fresh garlic on hand. Like I said, I've made it many different ways, and I am making it the fastest and the easiest way for you guys so that you can see just how easy making homemade refried beans really is, and it's not intimidating, and you can do it, and it tastes so much better than what you get out of the can. Now, if I have refried beans out of a can, to me it tastes like metal, and I can't stand it. Once you use home canned and home jarred pinto beans for your refried beans, it's amazing. And it's so cheap. So, alright, I'm going to let this warm up and cook up. And once it starts getting warmed up, I will bring you back and show you what it looks like. Okay, so then once your beans start boiling and getting nice and hot here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to smash them. Now I just use a small, I've got a large and then I've got a smaller potato masher. I use my smaller one. And I just go through and start smashing up these beans. I'm going to turn them down a little bit. Now you can get this as fine and smashed as you like. You can leave it chunky. It's up to you on what you like. And once you start smashing them, you'll notice they'll get nice and thick. And then it really is just about simmering them down to a consistency that you like. Remember, as it cools, it will thicken. But that is it. I have found that making them in cast iron, they just turn out better. Although my cast iron, I've been using my cast iron pans now nonstop. Like I use them every night for dinner. And I use them for everything. And so my pans now are getting really nice and seasoned. And it's just, they're wonderful. I love them. So go ahead and smash it to the consistency you like. And my house is going to be loud because all the kids are home now. It is after school. We've got band concert tonight. So, I know you guys wanted to see my mole sauce. I was going to make like an enchilada bake tonight, but the day got away from me, and so tonight I'm just making actually a 7-layer taco dip, and I have a video on that. I'll put it up in a card if you guys want to see it. It's an old video done quite a few years ago, but I still make it the same way. So I'm going to be using these beans along with the leftover taco meat that I have, along with leftover lettuce that I had shredded, and sour cream and cheese and tomatoes, and I have some green onions left. So I also have a can of olives. So I'm going to be making a taco dip, and then the kids can just eat it with some chips, and it'll be easy and it'll be filling and they will love it. I also make the 7-layer taco dip for I used to make it a lot when we used to have family parties. We don't have family parties much anymore without my mom. But I still make it quite often. Super Bowl, that kind of stuff. July 4th. It's just super easy and super filling, and it's something that keeps really well. You can kind of make it ahead of time. So this is it. This is my homemade refried beans. And then, of course, you always want to taste them. So let me give them a taste and make sure that they're seasoned okay. But look at that. I don't know if you guys can see that. And then, of course, the more you simmer it, the thicker it'll be. And then, of course, once they stand, they'll thicken up too. So, really good. I'm going to add a little bit more garlic to it. And just a tad bit more salt to it. And then I'll taste it again just to make sure it's perfect. My kids don't like it really bland, so but they absolutely love. Now, it's funny because before, when I used to buy refried beans in a can, my kids didn't care for it. They're like, you know, can you leave that out? Do you have to do you have to add that? And you know, I've always loved refried beans, but my kids were never a fan. And then when I started learning how to cook from scratch, and I made my first refried bean, my homemade refried beans, it was on a Saturday, and I had everybody taste it, and everyone flipped out over it. And I was so excited because my kids actually liked it. So I'm going to go ahead and taste that now. Perfect. That's perfect. And of course, you could just throw some shredded cheese on this and a dollop of sour cream and have it with some chips. Yum. Okay, so mine's done. I'm not going to cook it down any more than this. I don't like it super dry. And as it stands here and thickens up, it's going to get even more thick. So that is it, guys. That is refried beans. Easy peasy. All right, guys, I hope this helped for those of you who have been wondering how to make it and save yourself a lot of money at the grocery store, especially if you home can it. I mean, it's just, like I said, another reason to get a pressure canner and can things up yourself. You see how thick that's getting now? As it's starting to cool down, it's gonna thicken up real nice. So I'm gonna let this stand, and then this is gonna be the base of my taco dip, and then I'm gonna warm up the taco meat and layer it on top, and then build it from there. But I'll leave that video for you guys to check out if you're interested. But that is it. Super, super easy. All right, guys, I will see you guys later. Hopefully tomorrow for another video. But until then, if you guys have any questions, just comment down below. All right, guys, bye.